Imagine a weapon that makes no sound, leaves no smoke, but can shut down a hospital in London, a railway in Germany, and a bank in Russia at the exact same second. The NSA spent billions building it. It was their ultimate secret, a digital God mode that could unlock any door in the world. They thought it was safe. They were wrong. One morning, the most powerful intelligence agency on Earth woke up to find their own arsenal had been turned against them. A group of faceless ghosts didn't just steal these cyber weapons. They humiliated the spies who built them. When they couldn't sell the tools for a fortune, they did something far more terrifying. They gave them away for free. The result was a global catastrophe that brought the modern world to its knees. But the scariest part isn't the hack itself. It is the silence that preceded it. How did the NSA lose control of the most dangerous code ever written? And who were the shadow brokers? The digital phantoms who watched the world burn with a smile. To understand the magnitude of this failure, we have to look behind the curtain of Fort Meade, Maryland. Deep inside the National Security Agency, there is a unit so secretive that for years, the government denied it even existed. It is called Tailored Access Operations, or TAO. In the cybersecurity world, they are known by a different name: the Equation Group. Researchers called them this because of the complex encryption formulas. They used math so advanced, it felt alien. These weren't teenage hackers in hoodies. These were the world's most brilliant mathematicians and engineers, working with an unlimited budget to build the perfect digital skeleton keys. Their job was to infiltrate terrorists, foreign governments, and nuclear programs. They were the apex predators of the internet. For nearly 2 decades, the Equation Group operated in the shadows. They were untouchable, or so they believed. Then came August 13th, 2016. A Twitter account with a broken English handle, @ShadowBrokers, appeared out of the digital void. They didn't post a manifesto or a political statement. They posted a link, and with it, a message that sounded like a bad movie villain. Attention government sponsors of cyber warfare and those who profit from it. How much you pay for enemies' cyber weapons? The group called themselves the Shadow Brokers. At first, the security community laughed. It looked like a prank, a low-level scam. The group announced an auction. They claimed to have hacked the Equation Group, NSA itself, and were selling the agency's best hacking tools to the highest bidder. The asking price? 1 million Bitcoin. At the time, that was roughly $500 million. It seemed absurd, but then they released a teaser file, a free sample to prove they weren't lying. Cybersecurity experts raced to analyze the data. The laughter stopped immediately. The sample contained code that was undeniably authentic. It included installation scripts, server configurations, and exploit names that had never been seen in the wild. Bananagly, JetPlow, Epication. These were the crown jewels of American cyber espionage. The world waited for the NSA to deny it, to call it a fake. It was a confirmation by omission. The shadow brokers had done the impossible. They had walked into the most secure digital vault on the planet, stolen the weapons, and were now dangling them in front of the world like a trophy. But the auction failed. No one was willing to pay $500 million for radioactive data. The shadow brokers grew impatient. They grew angry. And an angry hacker with a backpack full of military-grade cyber weapons is a dangerous thing. Months passed. The initial shock of the shadow brokers' announcement began to fade into the background noise of the internet. The auction had stalled. It seemed the hackers had overplayed their hand. The world assumed that without a buyer, the stolen tools would remain locked away in an encrypted vault, safe from the hands of cybercriminals. But the shadow brokers were not done. They were merely insulted. They felt ignored by the media and dismissed by the intelligence community. On April 14th, 2017, they decided that if they couldn't get paid, they would get revenge. They posted a final message, a chaotic, rambling letter written in their signature broken English. But the text didn't matter. What mattered was the password included at the bottom. That password unlocked the remaining encrypted files. It was the nuclear option. Inside this dump was a tool named EternalBlue. To understand why EternalBlue terrified security experts, you have to understand how normal hacking works. Usually, a hacker needs you to make a mistake. You have to click a bad link, download a strange file, or share your password. But EternalBlue was different. It didn't need a human mistake. It exploited a flaw in the way Microsoft Windows handles file sharing. If a computer was connected to the internet and hadn't been updated, EternalBlue could simply walk in. No clicks, no downloads, no permission asked. Once inside, it could execute any command it wanted. It was the digital equivalent of a ghost walking through walls. The NSA had known about this vulnerability for years. They kept it secret so they could use it for espionage. Now, that secret was public knowledge. The clock started ticking. Microsoft frantically released a patch to fix the hole. But in the corporate world, updates are slow. Systems are old. The door was still wide open. And now, every criminal on the dark web had the key. For 28 days, the internet held its breath. Then came Friday, May 12th. A new strain of ransomware began to propagate. It was called WannaCry. Ransomware was nothing new. It usually targeted a single company or a specific individual. But WannaCry was different because it had an engine strapped to it. The criminals had taken the NSA's EternalBlue weapon and welded it onto their malware. This turned a standard virus into a self-replicating worm. It moved at the speed of light. It hit the Telefonica headquarters in Spain first. Employees were told to rip the cables out of their computers. Then it jumped to the UK's National Health Service. MRI scanners stopped working. Refrigerators storing blood samples malfunctioned as their control systems locked up. It wasn't just data anymore. Patient lives were on the line. The infection map turned red. Russia, Taiwan, Ukraine, India. The malware didn't care about borders or politics. It just saw open doors and attacked. The attackers demanded $300 in Bitcoin to unlock the files, a pitifully small amount for the chaos they were causing. In a small bedroom in Ilfracombe, England, a 22-year-old researcher named Marcus Hutchins was watching the world fall apart, known online as malware tech. He wasn't a government agent or a corporate soldier. He was just a curious kid who loved reverse engineering code. He managed to get a sample of the WannaCry virus. As he dissected the code, scrolling through lines of gibberish and malicious instructions, he noticed something strange. Buried deep within the software was a call to a specific, unregistered web domain. It was a long, nonsensical string of letters and numbers ending in .com. The virus was programmed to check if this website existed. If the website was offline, the virus would continue to spread. But if the website was live, the virus was programmed to stop. It was a kill switch. The creators of WannaCry likely put it there to stop their own testing environment from being overrun, or perhaps to turn the attack off if the heat got too high. But they had made a mistake. They left the kill switch visible in the code. Marcus didn't know it was a kill switch at the time. He just saw an unregistered domain and thought, I should buy that so I can track where the virus is coming from. He paid $10.69 to register the domain. Instantly, the global attack collapsed. The virus checked the website, saw that it was now active, and initiated its self-destruct sequence. Across the globe, the infection rate plummeted to 0. A 22-year-old in his bedroom had accidentally stopped the worst cyber attack in history with $10. But while the immediate fire was out, the questions were burning hotter than ever. The NSA's own weapon had been used to hold the world hostage. The shadow brokers had proven their point. But the story wasn't over. The investigation into who the shadow brokers were was just heating up. And for Marcus Hutchins, the hero of the hour, the spotlight would soon turn into an interrogation lamp. While the world celebrated Marcus Hutchins as the savior of the internet, a different kind of hunt was happening inside the United States government. The NSA was bleeding. They had been violated, not by a physical army, but by a ghost in the machine. They needed a culprit. They needed to stop the leak. The investigation turned inward. The FBI tore through the lives of NSA employees' contractors. They were looking for a mole. The profile was simple. Someone with high-level access. Someone disgruntled. Someone who could walk out of a secure facility with the keys to the kingdom. They found Harold Martin III. Martin was a contractor for Booz Allen Hamilton, the same firm that employed Edward Snowden. When the FBI raided his home in Maryland, they didn't just find a USB drive. They found a hoard. For 20 years, Martin had been stealing classified documents and digital tools, storing them in his car, his shed, and under his house. It was 50 terabytes of stolen state secrets, the largest theft of classified information in U.S. history by volume. It seemed like case closed. They had their man. The media ran with the story. The shadow broker had been caught. But there was a problem. Harold Martin was in custody, sitting in a cell, cut off from the internet. Yet, the shadow broker's messages kept coming. The leaks continued. The broken English posts mocked the investigators. Martin was a hoarder, a man obsessed with possessing secrets. But he wasn't the mastermind behind the auction. He was just a symptom of a broken system. The true identity of the shadow brokers remained a mist. Was it Russian intelligence? A disgruntled insider team? A chaotic third party? To this day, the handcuffs have never been placed on the wrists of the entity that signed those messages. The perpetrators vanished into the digital ether, leaving the NSA with a bruised reputation that would never fully heal. But while the villains escaped, the hero did not. 3 months after stopping WannaCry, Marcus Hutchins traveled to Las Vegas for the DEF CON hacking conference. He was partying, celebrating, living the life of a cybersecurity rock star. But as he tried to board his flight home to the UK, he was stopped by FBI agents. He wasn't arrested for a traffic ticket. He was indicted for code he had written years earlier, when he was still a teenager. Before he saved the world, Marcus had written malware called Kronos. The FBI had been building a case against him long before WannaCry happened. The irony was suffocating. The NSA, whose negligence allowed a cyber weapon to cause billions of dollars in damage, faced no criminal charges. No official was handcuffed for losing EternalBlue. The shadow brokers, who unleashed the chaos, were free, likely sitting on a mountain of Bitcoin. But the 23-year-old kid who stopped the bleeding, he was facing 10 years in a federal prison. The cybersecurity community was outraged. They saw a young man who had grown from a gray hat hacker into a force for good, now being punished while the giants walked free. The legal battle dragged on, a heavy cloud over the boy who had just saved the internet. In the end, the judge showed mercy. Recognizing his contribution to stopping WannaCry, Marcus was sentenced to time served and 1 year of supervised release. He walked free, but the message was clear. In the war of cyber espionage, there are no good guys, and there are no bad guys. There are only targets. The verdict of this entire saga wasn't delivered by a judge in a courtroom. It was delivered by the reality of the new world we live in. The event proved that the tools built to protect us are just one leak away from becoming the weapons that destroy us. The NSA had built a gun to shoot the bad guys, but they left it on the table, and the world got shot with it. The dust has settled, but the digital landscape is permanently scarred. The WannaCry attack caused an estimated $4 billion in damages worldwide. It wasn't just a wake-up call. It was a fire alarm that never stopped ringing. For the NSA, the leak was a strategic catastrophe. Their God mode cheat codes were burned, but more importantly, their aura of invincibility was shattered. The argument that intelligence agencies should hoard security vulnerabilities to use against enemies, rather than helping companies fix them, became harder to defend. If the NSA can't keep their own weapons safe, who can? The shadow brokers vanished as mysteriously as they appeared. They stopped posting. They cashed out. Somewhere out there. Perhaps in a dacha in St. Petersburg, or a penthouse in Southeast Asia. Someone is sitting on a fortune of Bitcoin that was once worth nothing, watching the chaos they birthed. They proved that the most powerful military in history could be disarmed by a Twitter account and a poor password policy. As for us, we patched our systems. We updated our firewalls. We moved on. But the code for EternalBlue is still out there. It has been modified, mutated, and integrated into the arsenals of common criminals and rival nations. The weapon is no longer locked in a vault. It is in the wild. We built a world entirely dependent on zeros and ones. We trusted that the walls protecting our banks, our hospitals, and our power grids were solid. But on that day in May, we learned the truth. The walls are made of glass. And everyone has a rock. The only question left isn't if it will happen again. It is simply, when? And next time, will there be a 22-year-old kid awake at 3 a.m. to save us?